Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
Rad Mom here. Welcome back to the channel, where today we're going to talk about Andrew Tate.
I have a huge amount of respect for Islam, and it's one of the only subjects that I am passionate about that I don't know everything about.
Because Andrew Tate is somebody who comes at a lot of the same meaty topics that we cover here on the channel, from a completely different angle. I believe these are some of the big topics of our time, but Andy's very confused, and with all that clout, probably dangerous. I feel like he was probably really into Fight Club in middle school. I, as a girl, also love Fight Club, because good storytelling is universal. A big part of the reason it's become a modern classic is because it speaks to the emptiness a lot of us feel surrounding life's big questions. What is the point of all of this? And why does modern life hold so few solid responses to these questions? Andrew Tate has absorbed and co-opted all of this in customary dude bro fashion, who got drunk and fell asleep and missed the end of the movie. You know, the part where Tyler Durden turns out to be a destructive manifestation of the guy's frustration and his search for meaning. And now, living as the embodiment of Tyler Durden, Andrew Tate has found the third heat, the missing ingredient that brings the nihilism full circle. Back to hiding in the cave, watching shadows. Andrew Tate has found religion, and he's using it to legitimize his own apocalyptic worldview, his own brand of reactionary conservatism. But the more I listened, the more I thought, wait a minute, I've heard this before.
Man, I see in Fight Club the strongest and smartest men who've ever lived.
It's like Tyler Durden is the voice in Andrew Tate's head. He's hitting all the same notes from that famous speech in the movie. He's Tyler Durden. Plus God.
First off, I want to say welcome to Islam.
Thank you.
Any questions that you want answered on this podcast today from a fellow Muslim right here.
Thank you.
Or if I can't get the answer, we'll get the answer for you.
Yeah, I'm studying it, and I have a huge amount of respect for Islam, and it's one of the only subjects that I am passionate about that I don't know everything about. Everything else I'm interested in, I can sit and talk about for hours.
Now that I believe.
Or if I talk about Islam, I feel like there's people far more qualified than me, and I feel like it's disrespectful because my opinion isn't valid compared to someone who's a born Muslim or studied it harder than I have. So,
everyone's opinions are valid.
Of course, but I don't consider myself qualified.
Oh. He sits here and claims humility and then shows absolutely none.
Yeah, fair enough. But how would you say it's shaped your life and your mentality?
You know the best thing about Islam? The best thing about Islam is how simple it is, because there's wrong and right.
It's a simple religion.
It's wrong and right.
We as human beings do need some sort of structure like this, in which to live our lives. He is speaking to a lot of the same basic impulses that Tyler was.
I mean, you look at other religions and it's also subjective now.
We're the middle children of history, man.
And that's why I've said many times on different podcasts that it's the last true religion. If you don't have a strong barrier, if you don't have a yes and a no, you don't have a religion. If you tolerate everything, you stand for nothing.
No purpose or place.
And if you believe in God and you say, I believe in God, but I'm not a Muslim, I'm going to say, okay, that's fine. You're a Christian.
Now, there's a false dichotomy if I ever heard one. There are more than two religions on Earth. I almost called him Tyler. There are more than two religions on Earth, Andy.
What is Christianity anymore?
We have no Great War.
What does it mean?
No Great Depression.
You can go to a Christian country, and America, let's take, for example. You can walk down walk down the street with a t-shirt saying Jesus is gay. Girls barely go to church.
I see all this potential.
If they do, who knows what they were doing the night before.
And I see it squandered.
There's him saying the quiet part out loud. Obviously, a lot of his motivation here is controlling women.
None of it means anything. If you go and find a Christian that says this trans person has changed gender, what do you think about that? Christians are so soft, they're going to go, well, I hope he finds redeem.
Dig how he couldn't find the word redemption when he needed it, right?
And I hope he finds guidance. Haram, bro. Haram. What's the point in a religion if you're too afraid to say what you believe in, or afraid to stick up for it, or afraid to defend it?
I'm not an expert on either of these religions, but I know Christianity tells you to expect to be persecuted for it.
Then what's the point in any of it?
We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars.
So I feel like it's the last true religion.
But we won't.
And I feel like it's the last religion on the planet.
We're slowly learning that fact.
If you wake up and you want to truly live a religious life and you want to have the boundaries and constraints of a religious life, you're going to be attracted to Islam. You're not going to be attracted to Christianity because you can wake up and say, I'm a Christian, and nothing changes.
Yeah.
Nothing changes and nobody cares. And that is Christians' fault.
And this is one of the deep truths that Andy does speak to where a lot of other people are not. Which is, everybody needs a framework in which to live their life. And some people approach that from a spiritual perspective, and there's just nothing you can do to help that. We in the West tend to approach things as if atheism is a given, which no one's proved that yet.
The basic law of the universe is that power vacuums get filled. This is the basic law of the universe. Anyone who's in the West who's concerned about the spread of Islam should be more worried about the absolute fall of Christianity. The reason people revert to Islam is because they're looking for God and they can't find God anywhere else.
We're very, very pissed off.
It's Christianity's fault for being so weak and decadent. I find it very, very interesting that Christians look at Islam as a threat as opposed to just understanding that it is a massive power vacuum because Christianity feels godless.
And that's the vacuum he's talking about. It's a spiritual vacuum, really.
And you do not feel God in Christianity anymore. And that's the reason that people are so attracted to Islam. That's the reason I was attracted to it, because I respect it.
I thought you were just saying it was because you felt God there. Is respect God to you? If so, I see why you chose the religion you did.
How can you believe in something you don't respect? I respect how they defend their religion. I respect how they're black and white on certain issues. I respect all of these things.
Because whether we like to admit it or not, we do need to be black and white on some things. Some things need to be settled and left alone so that we can live our lives. Moral relativism cannot be absolute. It cannot.
But I think the number one measure of success for a religion is how well it preserves the sanctity of a society. I think that if you want to say, is this a successful religion? Well, then you'd look at the society which it governs and say, are the creeds of the religion being adhered to by the society that it governs?
Okay, so here we are touching on a fundamental difference between Christian societies and Muslim societies. We have separation of church and state. We deliberately made the decision not to have Christianity run things. And we did that for a reason. Christianity might inform a lot of societies in the West. It does not run them.
I would argue that most Islamic countries have an Islamic feel. I would argue you'd avoid a lot of the LGBT garbage. You'll avoid a lot of the woke insanity. You'll avoid a lot of the feminism, which has destroyed the West.
Yeah, and you know how they avoid that? They execute anybody who disagrees with them. Here's how he characterizes Islam.
Think about it. You're about to go into a bar fight. You want to roll with the G's, or you want to roll with a bunch of pussies?
Because Islam specifically states that you need to punish the infidel.
Because Islam is being adhered to and it's keeping the society functioning. Do I go to Christian countries and feel like Christianity is preserving them? Not really.
When I see a true following Christian, it's like you're so close to Islam, but you're just a couple of places where you're going wrong.
Yeah.
Well, those couple of places might be really integral. But he's also sort of telling on all of them right now, right? Because, yeah, fundamentalist Christianity and fundamentalist Islam are definitely a lot alike.
Christians must feel a deep resentment towards Muslims, especially the true believers, because we stick up for what we believe in.
I think if Christian fundamentalists resent you assholes at all, it's because you make them look bad.
They want to, but they can't because their own religion has become so woke and almost betrayed them.
I'm not a Christian, but I seem to recall that Jesus said something about turning the other cheek. Like, these things are not interchangeable. This is complete nonsense.
How can you stand up and say, I'm a Christian and I mean it, and you better, when they have gay preachers? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And your fellow Christians will turn on you and call you a bigot. Your fellow Christians will call you a bigot and call you hateful for saying that a man shouldn't chop his dick off. And then you're going to sit there and say I'm a true Christian.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
So all the Christians I speak to who truly believe, and I've spoken to a lot of them.
Right. I totally believe that.
They are very envious of Islam. And then I'm like, well, then what's the delay?
Yeah, you're right. I can't imagine why somebody who follows the Prince of Peace would hesitate to join a warrior religion, Andy.
But they feel like an affinity to Christianity because they were raised with Christianity or they're born Christian, and perhaps they see Islam as a Middle Eastern religion.
Perhaps they see Islam as, the very spiritual embodiment of might makes right.
Which is kind of interesting because Christianity is a Middle Eastern religion.
Yeah.
They're from the same place.
Yeah, they all spiral they stem from the same countries.
But this is true, and a lot of these problems exist across the board.
If you believe in God, I don't see how you cannot be a Muslim. I just don't see the attraction to any other religion that makes any kind of sense.
I do believe that, because that would require empathy. I can't imagine why anyone would be interested in any religion other than Islam, except females. I'm not surprised at all that Andy picked Islam, because it perfectly reflects what he was already doing.
You can also look at this from the ideological and the theologian standpoint in regards to what happens after we die, and superpowers and Allah and Muhammad, peace be upon him, and all these things that we don't quite understand. But you can also discuss it right here on earth with what you see.
But he's actually arguing for Islam from a materialist perspective? Like, yeah, there's all that spiritual shit, but it really holds a society together. Yeah, by controlling them. It reminds me of what Jon Stewart said about Tucker Carlson's coverage of the amazing shopping centers in modern Russia. The difference between that and this is the literal cost of freedom.
Like I said about preserving the sanctity of a society.
Man, I see in Fight Club the strongest and smartest men who've ever lived.
If you're Christian, how is Christianity saving your children from the oncoming enslavement?
I see all this potential, and I see it squandered.
How is your Christianity saving your children from the slave mine programming?
Slaves with white collars.
How is Christianity preserving anything?
It isn't. And that is another big truth that he is talking about that few other people are addressing in a similar way. Culturally, there has been a societal breakdown going on in the West for a long time. I'm going to submit that turning to ancient religion is probably not the answer, though.
I don't know, what is a Christian country?
God damn it, an entire generation pumping gas, waiting tables.
A guy in America recently just got charged for a hate crime for taking down a statue of the devil that they had erected in a church. I'm mind blown. Like,
Statue of a devil in a church.
They put a statue of the devil in a
Make
church.
that one make sense.
Challenge accepted. First of all, freedom of speech. In the United States, you can create art of pretty much anything you want. If they, had an agreement with the establishment to display that art in that church, there are no laws that restrict that. That church is private property and they can display whatever kind of art they want. Arguably also, Lucifer is like an angel or some junk, so I don't know. It was probably a Baphomet statue. I don't remember which one of them, which satanic, they're atheists, by the way, are making a statement. It's a political statement. So there you go.
He walked in there and ripped it down, and he's being charged with a hate crime. So I feel like, if I want to get conspiratorial, which of course is unlike me,
We're the middle children of history, man.
the final barrier to the slave programming is always going to be God, because there's a firm right and there's a firm wrong. They're going to come along and convince us all that the sky is green.
Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes.
And it's unfortunate because slowly they're going to win.
Working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need.
And this is another thing that he's talking about, which is one of those deep issues we are all grappling with right now in the modern world, which is a lack of meaning and black and white understanding of anything. We're all conspiracy theorists now because the mainstream narrative doesn't make any sense anymore, so you really just have to sort of figure stuff out for yourself.
Right now, we laugh at the fact that a man can chop his dick off and become a girl. We laugh at that. But our great-grandchildren won't laugh at that idea.
We're the middle children of history, man.
Unfortunately, slowly they're creeping in, and the only barrier to this insanity, the final protection, is God.
Fundamentalism.
The book that says yes and no. Simple.
We're very, very pissed off.
Would you say the answer to getting out of that and being part of the group where we don't believe what they say regardless is religion?
Oh, it is.
It's funny how he likes to pick on TRAs and stuff like that because he also likes to pompously repeat things as if it makes them true. I'm sorry, religion is the antidote to the slave mentality? I don't know about in Islam, but in Christianity, they literally refer to them as a flock of sheep.
But it's only Islam. This is the point, because Christianity is under such heavy attack now, and they've watered it down and diluted it so deliberately because they don't want people to be religious, because when you're religious, you're going to have a firm right and a firm wrong. Mm-hmm.
It's been a popular point of conversation how gender ideology sort of functions as a religion in a lot of ways, with similar rights and kind of thought-terminating beliefs. So the idea that it might be trans versus Islam is kind of an interesting idea.
The primary goal of the Matrix, and the primary goal is for them to get you in a position where you'll accept the slave programming regardless of what your own eyes tell you.
Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes. Working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need.
That's their primary goal, and religion prevents that.
Religion prevents brainwashing. Okay.
So they've come along and they've deliberately assaulted God, and they've assaulted the Christian faith, and it was a test for the Christian people to stand up and resist, and they failed.
I see all this potential, and I see it squandered.
If you're going to go to war, which I just described, because war is nothing other than controlling of ideas. That's all war is.
Spoken like somebody who's never been there.
The reason we send tanks to some random field and blow things apart is to gain influence over a geographical area so we can
Gain
control,
power, yeah.
to control the ideas of that area.
I'm sorry, tell that to the guys driving the tanks, asshole.
I just described a war to you. It's a spiritual war,
Our great war is a spiritual war.
but it is a genuine war. If I'm going to go to war against Satanists who are going to try and poison my children and enslave me,
Our Great Depression is our lives.
who do I want on my team?
It's like Tyler Durden is the voice in Andrew Tate's head.
And if every time I say to Christians, bro, look what they're doing to Christianity, and their answer is, yeah, I pray for them. Bro, no. Haram. Haram!
It's Space Monkey time.
And everything you just said there is pretty much written in the Quran that there's going to be a war coming against the Muslims.
That's terrifying.
With recent technologies, the way they try to do it is they want to combine technology with human to create the same power as God.
Which would sound like a nutty conspiracy theory if Elon Musk went out there saying exactly that.
We will laugh at that, but as technology progresses and our children's children, you're right, people are going to be living completely in a digital world with little glasses on. And that's where technology is going. It's heading in one direction. And that's actually the most interesting thing, because empires rise and fall. I feel like this is the first time in human history where, as the Western Empire falls, which it is, it's going to be replaced with this global technological enslavement program. It's not just a matter of geopolitical influence waning and politicians falling and things like used to happen before. It's actually a lot more scary. And the globalism is coming and it can't be avoided. And I guess it's kind of like gunpowder technology like this. You can't avoid its progression. It's going to be used. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. How do you try and prepare yourself for that and counter it? It's super interesting.
It is super interesting. What a good simile, actually. See, he's not a stupid man. He is a raging maniac, though. What a nutcase. Everything he says is so expertly flipped upside down, it's almost breathtaking. The answer to our postmodern search for certainty is not to return to ancient religions. And speaking for the female half of the population, I definitely do not see that as the way forward.
And we need God more than ever, that's for sure.
Not your God! We need a level of certainty that we are lacking in postmodern civilization. We are searching for meaning on a very deep existential level. This is not the answer. I'm really frightened to see how the next few years of Project Muslim Mayhem plays out. I can't wait to hear about his spiritual revelations. Can you? Let me know down in the comments what you think Andrew Tate's spiritual revelations will be. Thank you so much for joining me. Come back at the top of the hour for the live stream and discussion, where we can muster our courage against continued cultural onslaught of guys like that who apparently are thrown caution to the wind and decided to blame it all on God. It's been intense. Thanks for sticking with me. I'll see you later. Bye.